Rain pounded against the windows of the Westbrook apartment building in Brooklyn, turning the night air into a symphony of droplets against glass. It was nearly 11, and Samantha Rodriguez stood outside her door, frantically searching through her purse. The CEO of Tech Shield Solutions had just moved in yesterday, seeking refuge from the storm of negative press surrounding her company's recent security breach. Her fingers, usually steady when facing down boardrooms full of skeptical investors, trembled as she emptied the contents of her designer bag onto the hallway floor. 3 empty coffee cups stood as sentinels in the building's recycling bin, testament to the day she'd had. Samantha's usually perfect composure was disheveled, her confidence momentarily shaken by this mundane yet frustrating situation. "Need some help?" The deep voice startled her. Samantha turned to see a tall man with kind eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow. Behind him peeked a small girl in unicorn pajamas, her curly hair framing curious eyes. "I'm Michael Williams from 4B. This is my daughter, Olivia." "I locked myself out," Samantha admitted, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. She wasn't used to needing help, especially not from strangers. In her world of tech executives and venture capitalists, vulnerability was a liability. "I just moved in yesterday and I must have left my keys inside when I ran out for a meeting this morning." Michael nodded understandingly. "Building management won't be back until morning, but I might be able to help. I used to tinker with locks in college." He didn't mention that his tinkering had been part of his advanced cryptography studies at MIT, or that the startup he helped build had pioneered some of the most sophisticated digital security protocols before being acquired by Google. And he certainly didn't mention that 8 months ago he'd submitted a resume to Tech Shield Solutions, only to receive a polite but firm rejection. "Daddy's really good at fixing things," Olivia declared proudly, her voice carrying the absolute certainty only an 8-year-old could muster. "He fixed Mrs. Peterson's microwave last week and my teacher's computer at school." Michael smiled at his daughter before turning back to Samantha. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the lock. When Samantha nodded, he pulled out a small multi-tool from his pocket and bent to examine the door. "Olivia, remember how I showed you about tension and pressure points?" The little girl nodded eagerly, moving closer to watch her father work. Samantha stood back, impressed despite herself as father and daughter worked together with practiced familiarity. 10 minutes and several careful manipulations later, the lock clicked open. Olivia squealed in delight while Michael stepped back, a modest smile on his face. "There you go, neighbor. Maybe get a spare key made tomorrow." His eyes met Samantha's briefly, warm brown connecting with her deep amber, before he turned to usher his daughter back to their apartment. "Thank you," Samantha called after them, one hand on her now open door. "I really appreciate it." What she didn't say was how rare it felt to receive help with no strings attached, no hidden agenda. In her world, every favor came with expectations, every assistance with future demands. Michael simply nodded in acknowledgement before disappearing around the corner with Olivia. Samantha entered her half-unpacked apartment, boxes still stacked in the corners. As she closed the door behind her, she had no idea that the man who had just helped her had once been considered for a senior position at her company. Nor did Michael realize that the woman he'd just assisted was the same CEO whose signature appeared at the bottom of his rejection letter. Two strangers connected briefly in a hallway, unaware of how their paths had already crossed once before, and how they were about to intersect again in ways neither could imagine. Michael Williams' morning routine had been perfected over 3 years of single parenthood. By 6:30, lunches were packed, breakfast was on the table, and 8-year-old Olivia was being gently coaxed from her dreams. The small 2-bedroom apartment in the Westbrook building wasn't the Silicon Valley mansion he once thought he'd own, but it was home, filled with Olivia's artwork, overflowing bookshelves, and the subtle scent of the sourdough he baked on weekends. "Daddy, do you think the lady liked the thank you cookies?" Olivia asked, carefully arranging blueberries in a smiley face atop her oatmeal. Yesterday afternoon, they had baked chocolate chip cookies and left them in a small basket outside their neighbor's door, with a hand-drawn card from Olivia. "I'm sure she did, sweetie," Michael replied, scrolling through emails on his laptop. His freelance work allowed him flexibility, but required constant vigilance. 3 years ago, When his wife Jessica's car was hit by a drunk driver in Boston, Michael had walked away from his prestigious position at a booming tech startup. The 70-hour work weeks and cross-country flights suddenly seemed meaningless compared to raising his daughter. They'd moved to Brooklyn for a fresh start, where the pace was still urban but somehow more manageable. Across the hall in apartment 4A, Samantha Rodriguez was already on her third conference call of the day. Moving to Brooklyn had been a strategic retreat, not surrender. TechShield was weathering its worst crisis since she'd founded it 6 years ago. A sophisticated hack had exposed vulnerabilities in their flagship security product, sending their stock plummeting 30% in a single day. The financial press, which had once heralded her as the future of Latinx leadership in tech, was now questioning whether a 33-year-old was equipped to lead a publicly traded company through crisis. "The patch will be ready for deployment by end of day," she assured the board members on the call, her voice conveying a confidence she didn't entirely feel. When the call ended, Samantha noticed the small basket by her door, homemade cookies and a card featuring a crayon drawing of what appeared to be her unlocking her door, complete with a rainbow and several smiling clouds. "Thank you for moving to our building. Welcome from Olivia and Daddy," read the childish scrawl. Something warm and unexpected bloomed in Samantha's chest. When was the last time someone had welcomed her anywhere without an agenda? 2 days later, Samantha sat in TechShield's Manhattan office, reviewing personnel files with her HR director. "We need to strengthen the security team after this breach," she said, flipping through digital profiles on her tablet. "Show me the candidates we passed on in the last year. Maybe we miss someone good." "We always miss good people," replied Diane, the veteran HR director, "usually because they don't fit the culture, which really means they don't look like our existing team, or didn't go to the right schools." Samantha raised an eyebrow, but continued scrawling until a name caught her attention. "Michael Williams? Why did we pass on him?" The photo showed her hallway rescuer, though in the professional headshot, he was clean-shaven, with neatly trimmed hair. Diane pulled up the file. Impressive technical background. MIT, security architecture at NetGuard, led the team that developed Encrypt Core before Google acquired them. "But," she hesitated, "Jackson thought he wouldn't be committed enough. He's a single parent with a young child." "Jackson thought that?" Samantha's voice sharpened, referring to her COO, Jackson Thompson. "His exact comment was, 'We need people who can prioritize the company, not school pickups.'" Diane looked uncomfortable. "I flagged it as potentially discriminatory, but he insisted it was about availability, not parenthood." Samantha stared at the screen, anger building as she read further. Michael Williams had been a rising star in cybersecurity before stepping back from corporate roles 3 years ago. His resume showed selective freelance work since then, mainly remote consulting that would accommodate a parent's schedule. What caught her attention most was his original research on encryption algorithms, research that had partly inspired TechShield's core product. "Hasty Williams from the Williams-Nakamura encryption protocol," Samantha murmured, pieces clicking into place. "We built our entire security architecture on foundations he helped create." That evening, instead of taking her usual car service back to Brooklyn, Samantha walked the 6 blocks to Bean and Code, a cafe Michael's social media listed as his regular remote workspace. The shop was a perfect blend of coffee house and co-working space, with clusters of tables separated by potted plants and local artwork. Samantha spotted Michael immediately, typing intently at a corner table, a half-eaten muffin pushed to the side. She ordered a cappuccino and approached his table. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. Michael looked up, recognition flickering across his face. "The neighbor with the lock problem. Please, join me." He closed one of his 3 open laptop screens. "Samantha, right? I saw the name on the thank you note you left for the cookies." "That's right. And you're Michael Williams." She settled into the chair. "I wanted to thank you properly for your help the other night." "It was nothing," he shrugged, taking a sip of his coffee. "Olivia was thrilled to be part of a rescue mission, as she called it." Samantha smiled, then decided to dive straight in. "I also wanted to talk to you about something else. I'm Samantha Rodriguez, CEO of TechShield Solutions." She watched carefully for his reaction, surprise, followed by a careful neutrality that impressed her. He had excellent control. I see, Michael said evenly. I suppose that explains the urgent calls at 11 at night. You applied to work with us last year, Samantha continued, and we made a mistake not hiring you. Michael's expression remained measured. That's kind of you to say, but it worked out for the best. The position would have required more hours than I could give while being the parent Olivia needs. The position you were rejected for, perhaps, Samantha acknowledged. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have found the right role for someone with your expertise. She leaned forward, especially someone who helped pioneer the very encryption protocol our systems are built on. You've done your homework, Michael noted, a hint of appreciation in his voice. I know talent when I see it, and I know when my company has made a mistake. Samantha took a breath. I'd like to offer you a consulting position. Remote work, flexible hours, focused on strengthening our security architecture after the recent breach. You'd report directly to me, bypassing some of the, she paused, traditional corporate structures. Michael studied her for a long moment. Why now? Because I helped you with your door? That's not a great basis for a business decision. Samantha appreciated his directness. Because I saw your name and realized we'd passed on one of the best security architects in the industry due to outdated and, frankly, discriminatory thinking. The door incident just made me curious enough to look deeper. They talked for another hour about encryption protocols, work-life balance, and the challenges of the tech industry. Michael spoke of his vision for tech with heart. Systems designed with human needs at the center, not as an afterthought. Samantha shared her own struggles as a woman of color in Silicon Valley, the daughter of Mexican immigrants who had worked 3 jobs to put her through Stanford. I'll think about your offer, Michael said finally, gathering his things as the cafe began to close. But I need to consider Olivia first. Every decision I make affects her. Of course, Samantha nodded. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need more of in tech, remembering there are real people behind every line of code, every business decision. As they walked out together into the Brooklyn evening, neither realized they had just taken the first step on a journey that would transform not just their careers, but their understanding of what truly mattered in both business and life. 3 weeks later, Michael's consulting work with TechShield was well underway. His home office had expanded from one desk to a comprehensive workstation where he could securely access the company's systems. The arrangement allowed him to walk Olivia to school each morning and be there when she returned, a non-negotiable part of his agreement with Samantha. The first company-wide meeting he attended virtually was revealing. Jackson Thompson, the COO, made no effort to hide his skepticism. We're bringing in a part-timer to fix what our full-time team couldn't? He'd asked pointedly during the video call. His Manhattan office backdrop a stark contrast to Michael's home setup. We're bringing in the architect who designed the foundation of modern encryption systems, Samantha had countered smoothly. Michael's insights have already identified 3 critical vulnerabilities our team missed. That evening, Michael's doorbell rang unexpectedly. He opened it to find Samantha holding a bag of Chinese takeout. Peace offering, she explained. I wanted to apologize for Jackson's behavior today. No need, Michael assured her, stepping aside to let her in. I've dealt with plenty of Jacksons in my career. Daddy, is that dinner? I'm starving. Olivia came bounding down the hallway, stopping short at the sight of their visitor. Oh, hello, Miss Rodriguez. Please, call me Samantha, she replied, bending slightly to meet the girl's eyes. I hope you like lo mein. What was intended as a quick dinner evolved into a 3-hour conversation. Olivia proudly showed Samantha her science project, a model of the solar system that her father had helped her build with moving parts. Daddy says I could be an engineer someday, like him, she explained earnestly. With your creativity, you could design entire systems no one has thought of yet, Samantha told her, earning a beaming smile from the child. Later, after Olivia had gone to bed, Michael and Samantha sat at his small kitchen table, tea mugs in hand. She's remarkable, Samantha said softly. You've done an amazing job with her. Some days I feel like I'm failing her, Michael admitted, vulnerability showing through his usual composed exterior. Jessica, my late wife, she was the organized one, the planner. I'm more of an improviser. Sometimes the best solutions come from improvisation, Samantha replied. That's how I started Tech Shield. Everyone said it couldn't be done the way I envisioned. But when you don't know something's supposed to be impossible, you find ways to make it work. Michael studied her thoughtfully. Is that why you moved to Brooklyn? Improvising a new approach after the security breach? Samantha nodded slowly. Partly. Also, I needed space from the constant scrutiny. In Manhattan, every coffee I bought was potential fodder for tech blogs, speculating on my emotional state. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger. The breach wasn't just a technical failure. It felt personal. I built Tech Shield on a promise of security, and we let our users down. Security is never absolute, Michael said gently. It's an ongoing conversation between protection and accessibility. The most secure system would be one no one could use. That's exactly what I've been trying to explain to the board, Samantha replied, surprise evident in her voice. They want guarantees I can't ethically provide. As midnight approached, Samantha gathered her things to leave. At the door, Michael hesitated, then asked, "Why did you really hire me, Samantha? There are plenty of security experts who could have consulted on this project." Samantha considered the question carefully. "Because you see the whole picture," she finally said. "Not just the code or the profit margins, but the people. In tech, that's rare and valuable." With that, she stepped into the hallway, leaving Michael with thoughts that would keep him awake long into the night. The next 2 months brought steady changes to both their lives. Michael's consulting role expanded as his insights proved invaluable to Tech Shield's recovery strategy. He began attending key meetings in person at their Manhattan office, always scheduling around Olivia's school hours. Samantha found herself stopping by their apartment several evenings a week, often bringing dinner or offering to help Olivia with homework while Michael finished urgent work calls. Small moments began to accumulate between them. Michael fixing Samantha's temperamental laptop before a crucial investor presentation. Samantha picking up Olivia from school when Michael's meeting ran long. Impromptu dinners where they debated the future of technology while Olivia drew elaborate pictures of robots with families. For Thanksgiving, Samantha joined them instead of flying to her parents' home in California. Admitting she hadn't taken a real holiday in 3 years, they cooked together in Michael's modest kitchen, Olivia appointed as official taste tester. At Tech Shield, the atmosphere was gradually shifting too. The security patch Michael helped design had been deployed successfully, stopping further data breaches and beginning the slow process of rebuilding customer trust. Samantha implemented several of his suggestions about company culture, including more flexible working arrangements for parents and caregivers. Some veteran employees, particularly those in Jackson's camp, resisted the changes, but others embraced the new direction. Not everyone approved of the developing relationship between the CEO and her consultant. Office rumors ranged from accusations of favoritism to speculation about romantic involvement. Jackson Thompson made his disapproval clear during an executive committee meeting in early December. The executive owners The board is concerned about your judgment lately, he informed Samantha as they reviewed quarterly projections. Bringing in an outsider with no current corporate experience, giving him access to our most sensitive systems, spending personal time with him outside of work, it raises questions. Samantha's expression hardened. The board is concerned, or you are, Jackson, because Michael's security protocol has outperformed all projections. Our stock has recovered 15% since implementation. It's not just about results, Jackson persisted. It's about appearances. You're the face of this company, and you're frequently seen with a subordinate. He's not a subordinate, he's a consultant who reports directly to me, Samantha corrected sharply, and my personal time is my own. What neither of them knew was that as this conversation was taking place, Olivia was sitting alone in the school nurse's office with a high fever, trying repeatedly to reach her father. Michael's phone, silenced for an important client meeting, missed the school's calls. When he finally checked his messages an hour later, panic set in. He was across town, at least 45 minutes from reaching her. Desperate, he called Samantha, interrupting her confrontation with Jackson. Without hesitation, she grabbed her coat and left mid-meeting, instructing her assistant to cancel her appointments for the rest of the day. She reached the school in 20 minutes, finding a pale Olivia curled up on the nurse's cot. "Your dad's on his way," Samantha assured her, smoothing back the girl's damp curls. "But I thought you might like some company until he gets here." "You left work for me?" Olivia asked weakly, surprise evident even through her illness. "Some things are more important than meetings," Samantha replied simply, helping the child gather her belongings. By the time Michael arrived, breathless and worried, Samantha had already taken Olivia home, settled her on the couch with her favorite blanket, and was preparing chicken soup in the kitchen. The sight of them together, Samantha reading softly from Olivia's science book while his daughter dozed against her shoulder, stopped Michael in his tracks. Something shifted in his chest, a door opening that he had kept firmly shut since Jessica's death. That night, after Olivia had fallen asleep and a doctor had confirmed it was just a seasonal flu, Michael and Samantha sat in his living room, the city lights twinkling through the windows. "I don't know how to thank you," he said quietly. "You dropped everything." "Don't thank me," Samantha replied, equally soft. "This is what people do for each other, for people they care about." Their eyes met, the unspoken growing between them. Michael reached across the sofa, his fingers just brushing hers. "Samantha." His words were interrupted by the harsh buzz of her phone. "I'm sorry," she said, glancing at the screen. "It's the board chair. I have to take this." The moment passed, but something had fundamentally changed between them. A recognition neither was quite ready to name. The annual TechShield shareholder meeting fell in the second week of December, a critical juncture for the company's recovery narrative. Samantha had been preparing for weeks, refining the presentation that would reassure investors about the company's security posture and future direction. Michael had helped design key portions of the technical demonstration, though he would not be attending the high-profile event. The morning of the meeting, however, brought unexpected complications. A tech blog published an article claiming inside sources had revealed new vulnerabilities in TechShield's updated security system. Vulnerabilities that supposedly exposed users to even greater risks than before the patch. The story spread rapidly through financial news channels, sending the company's stock into a renewed tailspin. Hours before the shareholder meeting, Samantha and her team scrambled to investigate the claims, finding no evidence of the reported flaws. "This is deliberate sabotage," Samantha told her gathered executives in the war room they'd established. "Someone with internal knowledge is feeding false information to the press. Or perhaps your consultant's solutions weren't as robust as you believed," Jackson suggested, his tone carefully measured. "Williams has been out of the corporate game for years. Perhaps he's lost his edge." Samantha's eyes narrowed. "Michael's code has been reviewed by our entire security team. There are no vulnerabilities matching the blog's description." "Nevertheless," Jackson continued smoothly, "the board feels we need to show decisive action. They're suggesting we publicly announce that we're terminating the consulting arrangement and bringing in a more established security firm." He slid a press release across the table. "I've taken the liberty of drafting a statement." Samantha scanned the document, anger building with each line. The statement not only ended Michael's contract, but implied his work had been substandard, positioning him as a scapegoat for the company's troubles. "This is unacceptable," she said flatly, tearing the paper in half. "I won't throw an innocent person under the bus to appease the market. Then the board will question whether you're putting personal feelings ahead of company interests," Jackson replied, his mask of professional concern slipping just enough to reveal the satisfaction underneath. The shareholder meeting began in an atmosphere of tension. Investors filled the conference room, expressions ranging from concerned to openly hostile. Samantha took the podium, outwardly composed despite the chaos of the morning. She had just begun her presentation when the doors at the back of the room opened. Michael Williams walked in, his face set with determination. Without acknowledging the surprised murmurs, he made his way to the front of the room and handed Samantha a USB drive. "Evidence," he said quietly. "I think you'll want to amend your presentation." Confused but trusting, Samantha inserted the drive into her laptop. What appeared on the screen behind her caused an audible gasp from the assembled shareholders. Email correspondence between Jackson Thompson and several technology bloggers revealed a coordinated campaign to discredit TechShield's security patch and, by extension, Samantha's leadership. More damning still were financial records showing substantial short positions Jackson had taken against TechShield stock immediately before each negative story broke. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Eleanor Winters, the board chairwoman, rising from her seat in the front row. "It means," Michael said, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent room, "that someone has been deliberately undermining this company from within. As a security consultant, I was asked to investigate vulnerabilities. I found them, just not in the code." He turned to face Jackson, who had gone pale. "The logs don't lie, Mr. Thompson. Every file access, every unauthorized download, every communication with external parties from your devices, it's all there." The security personnel discreetly approached Jackson as Samantha regained control of the meeting. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the stunned shareholders, "today was meant to be about TechShield's recovery and future direction. That hasn't changed. What has changed is our understanding of the challenges we've been facing." With remarkable poise, she pivoted the presentation to address the new information, outlining the actual security improvements Michael had implemented and the stronger oversight measures now in place to prevent internal sabotage. As Jackson was escorted from the building, Michael slipped into a seat in the back row, watching Samantha transform a potential disaster into a moment of corporate redemption. By the time she concluded, the mood in the room had shifted dramatically. Investors, who had arrived ready to demand her resignation, were now applauding her transparency and decisive action. TechShield stock, which had plummeted that morning, began to recover even before the meeting adjourned. Afterward, in the empty conference room, Samantha found Michael gathering his belongings. "How did you know?" she asked, exhaustion and gratitude mingling in her voice. "I didn't, not until last night," he explained. "I was reviewing access logs as part of the security audit and noticed patterns in the data exfiltration. All trails led back to Jackson's access credentials." "Why would he do this? He's been with TechShield almost from the beginning." Michael sighed. "His options were set to vest next quarter. According to the financial records, he stood to make millions more from the company failing than succeeding. Classic short and distort scheme." Samantha shook her head, processing the betrayal. "You saved us today, saved me." "You would have figured it out," Michael assured her. "I just accelerated the timeline." He hesitated before adding, "Olivia helped, actually. She was sorting my notes for a science project on patterns, and she noticed Jackson's name kept appearing at statistically improbable times." Samantha laughed despite herself. Like father, like daughter. She stepped closer to him. "Thank you, Michael, not just for today, but for showing me a different way to lead, one that doesn't require sacrificing what matters." Their eyes met, the attraction that had been building between them now impossible to ignore. Michael reached for her hand, and this time there was no interruption as their fingers intertwined. "Samantha," he began, his voice low and certain, "I've been careful since Jessica died, protective of Olivia, of myself. But these past months with you have shown me it's possible to honor what was while still embracing what could be." Samantha felt tears threatening, unusual for someone who prided herself on emotional control in professional settings. "I've spent my career proving I belonged in rooms where everyone thought I didn't," she whispered. "With you, I never have to prove anything. I just get to be." The kiss that followed was gentle at first, then deepening with shared understanding of all they'd weathered to reach this moment. When they finally parted, both were smiling despite the day's turmoil. "So," Michael asked, "what happens now?" Samantha squeezed his hand. "Now we rebuild the company and whatever this is becoming between us, one day at a time." Spring arrived in Brooklyn with cherry blossoms and renewed energy. 4 months after the shareholder meeting that had changed everything, TechShield was thriving under a restructured leadership approach. Samantha had implemented her family-forward tech initiative, creating flexible working arrangements that acknowledged employees' lives outside the office. Michael had accepted the position of Chief Technology Officer, with terms that protected his time with Olivia while allowing him to guide the company's technical vision. The most dramatic change, however, was TechShield's new Brooklyn office, a converted warehouse just 15 minutes from the Westbrook apartments. Why should everyone commute to Manhattan when technology allows us to work anywhere? Samantha had reasoned to the board. The move had reduced overhead costs while improving employee satisfaction. It had also allowed her and Michael to build something increasingly precious, a balanced life that honored both professional ambition and personal connection. Olivia had blossomed too, starting a coding club for girls at her elementary school with support from TechShield's education outreach program. Her initial wariness about Samantha's role in their lives had transformed into enthusiastic acceptance, especially after Samantha helped her win first place at the district science fair with a project on encryption. On a warm May evening, Samantha stood backstage at the Women in Tech conference in New York City, reviewing her keynote speech notes. As the founder of one of the few Latinx-led companies in cybersecurity, she had been invited to speak on diversity and innovation, a topic that had taken on new meaning for her over the past 6 months. "Nervous?" Michael asked, appearing beside her in a quiet moment before she was due on stage. He handed her a cup of tea exactly as she liked it. "A little," she admitted. "This isn't just about TechShield anymore. It's about changing how the entire industry thinks about work, leadership, and what really matters." Michael smiled, the expression reaching his eyes in a way it hadn't when they first met. "You've already changed how one tech leader thinks about those things," he said quietly. "The rest of the industry doesn't stand a chance against your conviction." From the audience, Olivia waved excitedly, proudly wearing a TechShield t-shirt she had modified with fabric markers and sequins. Samantha waved back, feeling a fullness in her chest that had nothing to do with pre-speech jitters and everything to do with the unexpected family they were building. When she took the stage moments later, Samantha looked out at the sea of faces. Samantha developers, veteran engineers, investors, and entrepreneurs, all waiting for insights from a woman who had weathered one of tech's most dramatic corporate crises. She began, not with statistics or strategic pivots, but with a story. "6 months ago, I stood outside my apartment door, locked out and alone," she told the hushed audience. "A single father and his daughter helped me find my way in not just to my apartment, but to a new understanding of what technology should serve. We build security systems to protect what matters, but sometimes we forget to ask, what truly matters? Is it quarterly growth, stock options, market dominance? Or is it the people our technology impacts, the lives it enhances, the communities it strengthens?" As she spoke about TechShield's transformation, Samantha watched Michael and Olivia in the front row, their presence grounding her in the truth of her message. "The most innovative companies of the next decade won't be those with the most punishing hours or the most cutthroat cultures," she continued. "They'll be the ones that recognize humanity as a feature, not a bug, that see diversity of experience, background, and life circumstances crucial to solving the complex problems we face." The applause when she finished was thunderous, but the only approval that truly mattered to Samantha came in the form of Olivia's enthusiastic thumbs up and Michael's proud smile. After fielding questions and accepting congratulations from conference attendees, the three of them walked together through the spring evening back to Brooklyn, choosing the scenic route across the bridge rather than a quick taxi ride. As they reached the Westbrook building, they paused outside Samantha's door, the same door that had brought them together that rainy night months ago. Olivia yawned dramatically, prompting laughs from both adults. "I think someone needs bedtime," Michael observed, ruffling his daughter's curls. "But first ice cream?" Olivia negotiated hopefully, employing the bargaining skills she'd picked up from listening to Samantha's investor calls. "Nice try," Michael chuckled. "Say goodnight to Samantha and then straight to dreamland." After Olivia's hug and cheerful "Night, Sam," Michael lingered in the hallway, the warmth in his eyes matching the spring air around them. "Proud of you today," he said softly. "You're changing things that need changing." Samantha leaned against her door, the one he had once helped her unlock. "You know what I realized while giving that speech? Doors can lock us out, but they can also invite us in." She took his hand, the gesture now familiar and comforting. "When I moved to Brooklyn, I thought I was retreating from my life. Instead, I was finding it." Michael's free hand gently brushed her cheek. "And here I thought I was just being a helpful neighbor." "You were much more than that," Samantha replied. "You were the reminder that sometimes the doors we think have closed forever are actually just waiting for the right moment to open again. As they stood there in the hallway where their story began, neither the CEO nor the security architect could have predicted the unlikely path that had brought them together. From locked doors to open hearts, their journey had defied corporate expectations and personal fears alike, proving that sometimes the most secure connections are the ones we never saw coming.